What's up, Saints and Aints? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Beat. Today, I'm sitting down with the producers whose work I like to describe as both thoughtful and immersive. From the moody layers of Dense Fog for Two to the Soul of Clarity, Showalter has quietly been building one of the most cohesive catalogs out here. He's not just a beat maker, but also a visual storyteller and world traveler and a vibe curator from Harlem all the way to the Dead Sea. I've been looking forward to interviewing him. So welcome to the podcast, Showalter.
Thank you so much, bro. Amazing.
You're welcome. I always start off each interview with, for those that may not be familiar with your work, just tell us who you are and how you got into producing.
So my name is Showalter. It's actually my actual last name. And I decided to do something because my father was like, we're going to play ball. And I'm like, okay, Showalter on the back of a jersey, fire. But it never happened. So when I was younger, my father used to play a lot of hard beats, and he knew a lot of people. But I used to listen to Dougie Fresh Freak and try to beatbox, and I was like 4 or 5. And then I was like, all right. And then my mom would hear it. She's like, okay. I didn't know my parents had a music background. Like both of my parents played the trumpet in high school, and then I wound up playing it in high school. So it was kind of crazy how I found out. But in Harlem, a lot of people, if you know anybody from Harlem, ask them this about the Harlem Children's Zone. It's basically a after-school program to keep us on par, to give us stipends. They let me hold Fruity Loop 7, and I copied the disc and gave it back to them. And then I started making beats at 17.
I know that's right. But yeah, that's really ingenuitive. So that's like where you ended up getting your start.
Yeah, pretty much. Because, all right, so just to give a little background, like my boy SBZ, like we had a very slight small window of meet in Ninth Wonder because his homie was related to him. So I was like, we was getting beats from him, and we got a lot of Ninth's old beats that he did for Little Brother. And I was just like, what's the point of rapping on these? We should have our own joint because Knife's music has its own identity. So you just can't do your own thing over that unless you're doing it like Drake and just doing a freestyle like on the radio back in the days. I was just like, you know what, we're going to make beats, and I'm going to just start it slowly every day until this point now. SBZ really is the reason why I started making beats, because he was nice. We were always rapping at lunch tables at his school. He was at his school, I was at mine. And then I would need beats, and I wasn't MPCs was like literally $2,000. And I know dudes that was doing it, but we was like 17 and we couldn't afford that.
People ag on Fruity Loops sometimes. I'm like, that is like was an entryway. Like I think about like Canva or even like CapCut. So, for people where like Adobe Premiere might be too complicated, or where like Lightroom and Photoshop might be too complicated, or they might not have a computer. So like the app like allows them to be able to edit. I think of like Fruity Loops in that same way. I'm like, it's an entry point for like youth and somebody that may not have like $2,000, $3,000 to invest in equipment. And I mean, look, to me, it feels a little early, because I think now, if it was to be introduced now, I don't think anyone would think anything of it. So I was going to say, you wear like a lot of different creative hats, because you just don't make beats. I see your traveling vlogs, your just day-to-day life vlogs, your rapping, because you and SBZ have a project together. So I just wanted to know, like, which of those came first, and like, how does all of this connect for you?
I feel what came first to me was the music first, because it was like the possibility, the start of the imagination. And then like, if you listen to a lot of rappers, especially like that, I call it just the velvet talk, like AZ, you got like Rock Marciano, those dudes really just velvet because they have experience.
I like that. I like that.
It's like it stays. So it's just kind of like that major point in time when we were trying to focus on what we were doing and finding identity. But like looking at a lot of our artists that we have now, that we all trying to figure out what we're trying to do. But it was just music was the best way to do it. And then once we got to college, I knew where we were going. We was like, all right, cool. SB's over here, my boy's over here, we here. And then we're telling our stories. My man's a Marine, he's in Japan telling me raps. I'm telling him what's happening here because he's not here for like 2 years. My
Uh-huh.
SB, he out of town for a little bit. So he's telling me what it is down there. And I'm like, okay, that's how we were working as we, still to this day,
Uh-huh. That's cool. I was gonna say your vlogs are they're well shot, well narrated, and they really just like immerse you as in like the world of what you're doing, and they make you like stop and pay attention. What inspired you to start like documenting your life in the
Okay.
day-to-day vlogs?
COVID. Really.
I want to talk about like some of your work. I want to start with clarity. What was like your mindset, or what was the catalyst for that project?
It was a dark time. I didn't know, you know, I knew who I was, but
Mm-hmm.
it was just a point in time where everything wasn't flowing, meaning like direction I wanted to go in life. I was at a weird standstill. And I always got to
Uh-huh.
constantly tell myself that it's not a race because there's no competition when it comes to what you're doing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, so I just wanted to answer one thing you mentioned before. I didn't mean to just say
Uh-huh.
COVID. But it ties in. The vlog series was created because like COVID happened, and it was just to a point. I was studying for about a month or 2 months because the checks was coming in every week. So I was just like, all right, I could really save and get a good camera. So I studied 2 months. If you on YouTube, you could type in the camera you
Mm-hmm.
want, then type in the lens you want next to it. And then you'll find somebody
Okay.
shooting with the lens. So I was doing that for about a whole month. And then as time went on, I was just kind of like, hey, like, why not cherish these moments? Because, I got photos, but video is my thing. So I wanted to do something different. So I did that for my fam and then put beats in it and then created a mood. So I wanted to create a universe for whoever's going to be entering the tapes. If you go my Dubai tapes, I have a beat called Museum of the Future. When I go to Dubai, people actually find it and use it. And I'm like, wow. So that's what picked it up. But clarity was a dark time for me because I needed to know who I was and I didn't have much clarity. And that's why my little haiku, little monologue came in. And then it was just kind of like at the end, when I finished dropping the tape, I was overwhelmed. Like I didn't drop nothing in 2 months and this and that. And I was just like, let me put this out. And then I was introducing more bootlegs into my work. So it was kind of like, you know what? Let me see. I'm constantly growing. So it's kind of like every time my workflow changes, every beat tape, I tune this, I change that, I change this mix, and I switch that. It's always a stepping stone that I'm trying to beat or I'm trying to learn how to do a clean kick for
Uh-huh.
that. It's always a different thing, but clarity is just a shift of moods. Each one is a different gem. And like if you look up the gem, it just describes how I'm feeling. And me and SB, we sapphires in September. And when that album came out, it was a cold night in September. We was both going through some shit. So we dropped that album out of nowhere.
So I was going to talk about that next. It's almost, well, no, it was a year that you all have dropped A Cold Night in September. And I was going to ask how you look back on that project now.
So I think with that project, it was kind of like I just spoke to SB maybe about 2 months ago, and I said, "Yo, we actually sat down in our circumstance. We sat down for about a solid 6 months. He was on my couch every day, and we was doing. And I come home from work with food, Chinese food, and the studio's in the crib. So we just do everything. I make a beat fresh. He like it. We write to it. We do it, and it was doing that every time. And then we made like 25 beat joints. Then we had to cut it down. But I was listening to it because like the problem with me is that when I'm making a beat, I can't shift to the rap side automatically. So when I shift back, when I finally like finished the album and I felt great about it and I mixed it because I'm making the beat, mixing it and everything,
Mm-hmm.
finally sit back 2 weeks later, like, yo, we did it. And that's hard to it, but that's how.
As you're telling me about how, you all made the album and over the 6 months, you can really tell that you all were locked in. I always say I could feel the difference that when people are like locked in and they sat together and like really made a project. I say when I listen to it, it really reflects.
I felt like when we did the album, like, I don't know if it's a bad trait of mine. Like I like to take on the load just because I get to see it grow and nurture it. So like as we
Yeah.
finish the song, we'll go downstairs and shoot a video and then I'll have it done by tomorrow just because I want to make him happy, but also I want to
Mhm.
put out a good body of work. So sometimes I'll try things, and if they let me have the experimentation, I'll take it. But that ride, I don't know if I'll ever get that moment again. That's why I'm like, I cherish it, because SB was in my house for dead 6 months, like locked in with me. Like
That's
life
half
don't
a
be no
year.
beats. Yeah, like literally October till dead as like March, April.
So when you sit down and make your beats, like what's your entry point? Do you start like with drums, sample, melody?
I always want to start with the drums. And one thing SB is always going to tease me about is that I just beatbox before I start it. So if I hear a sample, I must do what I
Uh-huh.
want to do to it. But I always start with the drums because I'm a force the sample to work for me. So it's kind of like I like where I place it, and it'll be off beat sometimes in a perfect spot, but I forced it to work. So like I'll be cooking something, and I always start with the drums first, then I'll slowly build. I see how the sample flows, and then I got to do something freaky with the sample. But it's the mix that I'm always worried about, that I always pay attention
Mhm.
to, because you could have a plain, like, beat. It could be the same loop, but if the mix
Uh-huh.
don't sound sexy, it's kind of like throws the whole thing out the window. You'll be doing it again and again, and then you're training your ear. Then you got to take a week off. Then you got to do it again, so then see if it's
And
perfect.
how do you know when like a beat is done?
Oh man, like I start freestyling on it. Real,
Okay.
like,
Yay.
I'll be on full focus mode making it. And
Uh-huh.
then if I'm over here like, oh shoot, like I'm going crazy. And then after that, I'll let it rock for a good minute. And then after that,
Uh-huh.
I'll freestyle and I'm like, yeah, it's done. And it'll be cooked. Like I'll make the beat and then I'll be mixing it the whole time and I'll listen to it over and over.
That's a good testing point. Do you think very visually when you produce? And I say that because everything like ties together. So for instance, for Mexico City, and the titles reflect like a trip to Mexico City. And I just want to bounce back to something you said earlier about people using like the music to their theme, to like when they visit these destinations. When you're putting together like the project, are you thinking also in terms of visually, like when you're making the beats?
Absolutely. When I'm making the beats, it's the blueprint for when I drop a Trip and Fall episode. Say, for example, when I drop Egypt and you see the titles, those are mainly going to be the places I cover. So then when you see the Trip and Fall episode and you hear the beat and you see it finally, now you get to feel what I feel or why I made this beat this way. I made it only because I got people on the block that never leave the block. I got people that got felons that can't leave the country. I got homies that can't afford to leave the country. So I'm like, if you fuck with me, then I'm gonna be like, all right, cool. I'm gonna show you where I'm at. At least, I can do is just give you the audio at least, and then you follow me. You get to see things, ask me questions. Maybe I could bring life to you somehow. If somehow you're down.
It serves that purpose. I've watched the vlogs and I'm like, oh, Dubai looks like fun. It is like a way to kind of I want to say like a musical Anthony Bourdain
Mm.
type of situation where you're
Ooh,
kind of
I like that.
Anthony,
I
that's what I think of
like
it.
that.
Explore You're like exploring a country or a continent through music versus
Mm-hmm.
food. So
Absolutely.
I like that. I really love how you put that together. Speaking of trips, you recently took a trip to Egypt. What was that like? Were there like any sounds or experiences that really stuck out to you?
When I went to Egypt, I'm surprised I didn't make a dance for 3 right now. Like it was kind of like before, it was just like burnout from work. As soon as I got to Egypt,
Uh-huh.
and just being to the motherland for the first time, like in
Mm-hmm.
Africa, it was just kind of like a
Uh-huh.
new power level. The sun didn't burn me the way it did. So when I went to Egypt, it was kind of like the people were heartwarming, but they didn't know me. Like, yeah, there's people
Uh-huh.
that ask for tips and stuff like that, which happens. And they want to be extra helpful to get tips. It's okay to give. But
Yeah.
when somebody meets you and they actually like feel your spirit, that's something that really sets you off. And that's been my standpoint from when I ever feel like I'm thrown off the track. So
Uh-huh.
Egypt was freaking amazing, but also I was in like Cairo, or Giza, right by the pyramids. I don't
Oh, yep.
recommend staying in the hotels there,
Okay. That's a travel tip.
I'm not supposed to be wilding on that. You're not supposed to talk about it, but the hotels are cool. It's just that you're really in the neighborhood, so you're gonna see a lot of locals. So they're gonna be asking you or bug you, but they're great people. Just get one of them, let them stay with you the whole day.
Is there a location that you visited that you haven't turned into a tape yet? Which you know that you will?
I mean, Egypt is supposed to be the next one. I haven't even fully started it just because I've been having a bit some new work, working with some new people and stuff like that. My boy Joe the Whale, I'm on his next tape that's dropping. You know, I got some stuff I'm supposed to release with my boy Wolf. A lot of stuff with SBZ, so that's definitely. But to let you know about next year, because I'm already like booked the tickets for it. I'm doing Thailand. So
that's gonna be nice.
That's gonna be so cool. And that trip, by the way, like I have my camera. This is what I used to take out, but Egypt is purely shot on iPhone. The last couple videos you've seen posted, except for the Triple Four episode, those are all shot on iPhone.
So what's something about being a producer today that you feel like people don't talk about enough, or that is like an issue?
I mean, the biggest issue right now is AI. Honestly, it's like it's not a problem to me. It's not a problem with AI being used for recreational use. Say like you couldn't get someone, you don't have enough money to get a album cover, so you got somebody, but next time you got to hit your boy. Like you didn't have it now, you had a deadline. Get it. Say if you needed something to spruce your page and you don't have the Photoshop experience, okay, cool. But if it's something like a job, somebody you doing your like record cover or something that's you're taking a job away from someone.
You've been consistently doing this. What has helped you stay like grounded while not burning yourself out?
I mean, like those people to be like, you got to have like 6 businesses to be a millionaire.
Yes.
Yes. I hate that. So so at the time, like I'll be doing beats. And then it's just kind of like, I don't want to do beats right now. Like right now, I'm trying to do more film stuff. So I shifted off, but also I still want to make new stuff. So I shift back. But usually it's like if I'm going too crazy doing beats now, like just overworking and it's not working out, I gotta rest to train the ear again. And then I'll just do video stuff just to maintain that. And then when that gets boring or whatever, then I'll just start fiddling with like clothing and stuff and try to find my direction in that. So it's just kind of like, it's always something to do, but I've been watching, like, not to be on no funny, but I've been watching Eat, Pray, Love.
I love that movie. And the book is good too. But yeah, that's one of those movies I watch to center myself too. I wouldn't mind going, I think, was she in Bali or Thailand, to one of those like silence retreats if they, still have them. But yeah, I love that movie. It's like one of those to really balance. And you spoke about clothes. Now I wanted to ask you about your outfits of the day. Where do you get your sense of styling?
Oh, appreciate this. Well, I think honestly, I just switched it up, like changing the rules of just what you should bring. If you're big, if you got a big shoe, you wear it to the airport, and then you put your little shoes in the bag. So
there you go.
Recently, I just always have a pair of Chucks, and then I gotta have a shoe that's for weatherproofing, and then you got something for dinner. But usually, like from being in New York, our weather, we get everything. But summer's a little late over here. It's like 60 degrees in June. It's kind of wild.
We're being paid back for it being in November. It was like 80 degrees, and I'm like, this is the retribution for that.
Can I have my Thanksgiving outside? I like that. Like,
I did too. I was living my childhood dream of like having a warm weather birthday. So, but I'm like, I feel like we're paying for that now with these 60-degree days.
I'll take it. A lot of my influences depend on the climate where I'm going, but like I like, loose product. I don't bring too many pants, loose shirts, but brands I do like Rick Owens or like some Calvin Klein jeans. But it's never really the label. It's just making sure that like I'm able to, wear the clothes. I had issues with just like overpacking, but like I always got to have one wide pant, one slim pant, one pair of shorts, and then like mad t-shirts and underwear mainly for when I go on trips and such.
I am a overpacker. I was going to ask, how did you get down from, like, how did you come out of that? Because it's hard. I know for myself is that I'm scared when I get to my destination, I'm not going to like anything that I packed.
Oh man, you got to do the fashion show in the crib. Like, go and put it on, go in front of the mirror. Yeah, you got to do all of it, like every time. And I'm like I think it's the best option because like most of the time my outfits are simple. I'm always going to keep a white tee. My pants going to be different. I always going to have white tee, black tee. Might get a tank and then a dinner shirts. But beyond that, like ladies, y'all can overpack because your product is small. It's just about like the shoes. The shoes is what you got to worry about.
Yes.
Now, at least have 4.
Yes. And then I need 4 is like minimal. Oftentimes it's 5. And then usually like I'll be wearing a pair of the shoes that I wanted to wear. So that's how I like save space if I'm like flying or what have you. Cause I hate checking a bag. So I'm like, okay, I'll try to, it's the shoes that get me. And it's like, oh, we need time for a bigger suitcase. What is next for you? I know you said you've got the Egypt tape coming and some other vlogs, but is there anything else on the horizon?
I have to shoot, finish up the last piece of the Dead Sea episode. So we're going to Petra in the city of Petra, like the actual exhibit. And just to give a little feedback, a little detail on it, that was one of the most, like when you go, I'm saying when you go, because you're going to go one day. But like when you go, it is a workout. When you go through those caverns, that's just the regular tourist spot. When you go through and you start seeing it open up, it's like literally, I felt like I walked the whole Manhattan because going from the beginning to end, it was about 2 or 3 hours. And then coming back, it was about 3 hours to exit. It was only one exit. And I had to climb stuff. The stairs were climbing up so high. It was raw. There's no security for like,
oh my goodness.
It's crazy. I got it all on footage. It's crazy. I was nervous as hell. Like it's crazy.
I want to see that. It's times like this when I'm listening and I'm watching your vlogs. It's times like this I miss Vice Network. This would be a show on Vice. Like we would be watching this. That is I was trying to think earlier today. I was like, what is it that I'm thinking? I said, at first I thought Adult Swim, and I'm like, your beats, I always think of those as like what they would play in interludes in between Adult Swim. And I was thinking of that and I'm like, no, it's not Adult Swim. It's something about the vlogs. And that's what it is. It's something we would watch like for travel on Vice if they were still around. That is what that is exactly.
I like that. I love that. Yes. Thank you.
So I'm like, yes, this is very Vice Network. We're going through the caverns of Petra. I think that's pretty cool. So let our audience know where people can tap in with you and hear more of what you are creating.
You can find me on Instagram _SHOWALTER_. I'm on Twitter. Don't use it. I'm on, what's the other one?
Threads.
And TikTok. TikTok is pretty cool too. I like it there.
All right. Well, that is our time, Saints and Aints. Showalter, thank you so much for coming on the show. Make sure that you like and subscribe for the latest Behind the Beat. That is my time, Saints and Aints. Love you. Bye.